Okay.
All right, sorry. That's going to annoy anyone who sees that, and I'm happy about it. All right, so today we are going to be talking about pros and cons of video games. Yes, so we kind of touched on this a bit before in talking about the psychology of gaming and how it can have its negative and positive impacts on the mind and overall on society. But we just kind of want to talk about like a comparative list about directly, not just the psychological aspect, but overall how it can impact you as a person. So obviously, I like to start off, me, Mr. Positivity. I like to, I like to start off with a pro. One pro that I was just discussing with you is that, like, and where some people would be like, why do you spend money on that? It's expensive. Gaming's not actually as expensive as you think. It can be cost effective. You can actually spend bare minimum for a lot of enjoyment, especially if you have a decent attention span. You could, even if you don't mind bad graphics, you could pick up an old system and go pick up like a $5 game that was good 10 years ago and just play it for weeks, and all you really spent was maybe $50 on the system and the game, depending on what system. Some of the other older ones are considered collector's pieces, so they're a little bit more expensive. But overall, even in today's generation, like, yeah, you look at these price tags on these systems, they're like half like a cheap car down payment. But the reality is that system's going to last you, 3, 4, 5 years? And say you spend $60 on a brand new game. If you play that game for everything it's worth, if you literally go for all the content in it, say for like one game, for example, Skyrim, there's still shit I haven't done in that game. There's still, like, and I've talked about mods, and I had mods, like, there's still replayability there for me even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always going to be a bang for your buck if you invest in the right way. It's like anything. You got to make sure you're putting your money in the right area. So obviously, if you see a game, it's like, yeah, this game's only got about 2 hours of playtime, and it's $60, maybe don't buy it. Now, if it was like $20, okay, 2 hours, $10 an hour, that ain't too bad. Like, you're paying for your enjoyment.
Yeah. I feel like that all comes down to what you're looking to get out of the game too, because like somebody can look at a game, it's like, oh, for $60 that'll keep me busy for like 2 or 3 hours, and then I beat the game. It's like, okay, but are you beating the game to its max potential, or are you just flying through the storyline just to say you completed it? Because I mean, like look at Skyrim. Like you said,
Yeah.
to this day, how many years later, you're still working on it. But
Yeah.
you could have bought that game for $60 back in the day, played it for 2-3 hours, just flew through it, and like, I'm done. There's no more for me to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you could burn the main quest line.
Yeah,
you could easily burn through it.
Exactly. So if you decide to just fly through the main quest, yeah, a game that should take you years to complete could be done in a couple hours if you look at it that way. But if, like you said, there's mods and stuff, there's side quests that if you go to one corner of the map that you've never been to, there's just a dude standing there waiting. He's like, he's coming. One day he's coming. I got something for him to do.
That poor bastard just spent years waiting for me because I never went there. I never showed up. Imagine that, though. I could never imagine. I've never been a main quest guy. If anything, I live on side quests in RPGs. I love side quests. I don't know what it is about, like, oh, can you find my missing dog? Sure, dude. And then, like, there's villages burning behind me. It's like, we need your help, Dragonborn. And I'll be like, I'm finding this guy's dog. Maybe later. So, I love doing stuff like that. And it does kind of, like, if you think about it chronologically, it does kind of fuck with the storyline a bit, because it's like the dragons are coming back. It's your job to, like, do something, and you're like, nah, I'm going to go hang out in the tavern with this drunk.
Yeah.
But it is also kind of like, it is play your way, and I love that. Like, I could completely, especially if there's certain mods. I'll only shout out one, alternate start. I love this mod for Skyrim because you don't have to go through the carriage. You don't have to be. If you continue, you can get recognized as the Dragonborn and continue the main storyline. But you could start off somewhere else. Like, there's like 8 different alternate starts. One's like you can be a vampire in a vampire's lair. And there's actually a mod extension to add more alternate starts in off of this mod. So like I think there's one where it's like you're like a shipwreck survivor and you literally just wake up on an island and you have like nothing, and it's kind of cool because like you're not this hero, you're just some poor asshole. You're, you're just some dickhead on an island now stranded, and then if you use survival mods that's even worse. But it's so cool. And so that's another pro I can shout out there is the community putting back into games can be good, but there's also some negatives that can come out of it and some weird stuff. But overall, pro, I'd say fine. Like the money that goes into gaming is well invested. And yes, I know there's no life gain out of it. I mean, there's you develop friendships and stuff like that through gaming. You can, and so I won't say there's not necessarily any life gains out of it. It's just obviously you're not getting more muscular sitting there playing video games unless for whatever reason you sit there and run on a treadmill while you game, which props to you. I could never.
Oh, hey, you probably could enter some thumb war competitions and you might be good at those.
Exactly. My thumb's got abs, bro.
I got abs on abs.
My thumb's got like a teardrop tattoo on it. I wouldn't fuck with it.
Yeah, just to kind of go off of that. Yes, gaming can be relatively inexpensive, but one con I did put down, and I'll just touch on it briefly, is that games can be expensive. Depending on how much you want to put into them. I mean, for example, myself, I'm one of those people who have spent a decent amount on my games. I probably own like 50 to 60 games from Xbox One. I have 11 controllers. Guess what? I don't have 11 hands. So, like
that I know of.
A few of them I broke over the years just playing like Madden and stuff and just getting frustrated. But like 9 of them are still good. 9 of them they still work. 2 of them, one of them the sticks broke because I threw it at the door. But and then the other one I can't remember what's wrong with it. The stick might just drift too bad that I literally just spin in a circle. But anyway, I have at least I wouldn't say thousands, but at least $1,000 into my gaming setup. With the amount of games I have, the controllers, I could have just stuck with the original Xbox One, but I decided to get the Xbox One X. So that was an upgrade that I decided to do. It was like like 2 years ago now. So yeah, it can be, like you said, it can be an inexpensive investment picking up an old PS1, PS2, Xbox 360, and just you could get a gaming setup with a console, a game or two, and then like 2 controllers for like $100 somewhere.
Exactly. And it's honestly just what gaming is to you. Like, for example, gaming plays such a big part of our life. I mean, we started a podcast about it, that obviously we've put money into our gaming to some extent because that's just that's what we chose as a passion of ours, and we've recognized it as a passion. And gaming has come out of this taboo to like it's like considered an esport. Like there are literally there's top level competitors and stuff along those lines that are now in this industry, and it's recognized and it stood out now as this staple of society. So yes,
so I'm decorating. I know. I looked in the background and I'm like, something's not right. I'm like, oh shit, my light's not working.
So, and I think this is going to be kind of a lot of our pros and cons. There's going to be a pro and con concept to most of them, just because gaming is one of those things that you can look at in however way you want to look at it. And that's one cool thing about gaming. You could be the guy who still has his old school Nintendo and just plays maybe once out of the year when he's not doing whatever else he's doing because he's more of a hunter-fisher type and that's more his emphasis and he just prefers being out in the country. But he does have that moment where he's like, yeah, I want to go play, I don't know, GoldenEye or something. And that's the thing. Like there's always going to be that internal perspective on how you look at gaming. So something I see as a pro, someone else could see as a con. When I say this is cheap, someone else could say that's not cheap. And so it's honestly just how you want to look at it. Like especially even for PC gamers, we don't usually talk about PC gamers because we're not PC gamers. But if you go on Steam, you can pick up like $2-3 games. Are they the best game in the world? No, but it's a game and it's a $2-3 game. Or on your phone, or you can play hundreds of free games online. There are hundreds of them. And do they have to be the best quality game? No, but the thing is that you can play games without having to spend a dime outside of just having an already existing computer system or some base console that you play
Mm-hmm.
on.
Even some games that are good quality games are games like Fortnite, Warzone, games that the developers have said, hey, we're going to offer this game for free. Those are high resolution, high quality, big community, like so yeah, in that sense too, you don't have to find a free game and be like, oh, graphics are terrible, the game keeps crashing, like stuff like that. It's like there are options out there, but like you said, it's just a matter of getting a console and going from there.
That's how one of my buddies is. He only has like Apex and Warzone, and he's content with that. He had Fortnite for, but like he just plays free games because he doesn't see a point in spending money on games until they are drastically down priced or there's a great sale, because that's just how he likes to operate when it comes to gaming. He doesn't feel that pull that like, oh, I need the most popular game right now, and I respect it, and it's cool, and that's the cool thing. Warzone is very popular right now, and you can still play with a lot of your friends that don't want to buy the full game and play multiplayer and anything along those lines. So that's another pro I want to shout out about gaming is connectivity. It brings people together. It allows you, for example, there's times when I was living out of this state and me and you could still stay in contact based around the idea of gaming, because obviously men don't like to sit down and talk on the phone. Maybe some do. I'm not one of them. I don't like to sit and talk. It's weird. I hate talking to guys on the phone unless there's a point to it. I don't even like talking to women half the time on the phone unless there's a point to it. It's simply that shit, I talk to my family barely on the phone. It's just that there's something about that form of communicating I don't like, but if I'm actively doing something with that person while talking to them, it's a lot easier for me. So communication is a very strong pro. And then to say a con about it, the fact is it's like the internet, it's like anywhere. You have those good people, and then you have your trolls or your people who like to just sort of instigate, and a little bit of it's fun. And we've talked about this before too. It's fun to instigate a little, but when you're getting to the point where you're saying such aggressive things like, "Oh, go kill yourself" and stuff like that, I'm not okay with that. Like, yeah, I may be bitching, but you're not going to hear me saying it. Yeah, I may be swearing you up and down if I'm frustrated in a situation, which I try not to let games do that to me, but sometimes it happens to all of us. But will I come out and say it to you? No. But then there's people who go out of their way to message you, and it's like, I don't understand who hurt you in life, or maybe you should have been hurt more in life, because I don't understand why you feel a need to reach out and try to bring another person down. That's just not what life's supposed to be about. Life's supposed to be about building each other up. Gaming is such an awesome way to be able to build other people up, develop friendships, and overall expand your ability to communicate, for one. And if you want to use it in the wrong way, I can't stop you. You have every right to, but it's only going to hinder you more as a person in the long run.
For sure. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I had that as far as like a pro is like friendship and communication, and then on the con side I have toxicity. So it's kind of funny how, like you said, every pro has a con, and every con that we have is there's probably going to be a pro side to it too. And yeah, just kind of going off of that again is that toxicity of some people you talk to, how it's almost hard where you can't just like mute all that and just kind of take that side out of it. Yeah, you can block somebody if they message you and they're being an asshole. Just like hit the block button and go on with your day. But I'm one of those people too where, I mean, like doing this podcast, having streamed for like 2 or 3 years of my life, I've got a lot of like hate messages on my content, like, oh, you suck, oh, you think you're good, it's like, I can do this, I can do that, go kill yourself, like stuff like that. It's all like it's given me tough skin to the point that it doesn't bother me anymore. So when I get a message from somebody on Xbox and they're being toxic, I don't take it personal to the point that I'm like, oh, I need to message them because I'm taking it personal. I message that person because I'm basically trying to call them out on their shit and be like, hey, this is not okay. Like, you really need to like reevaluate like what gaming means to you or what you're trying to get out of this conversation. Because if you're trying to just tear me down more, or just for whatever reason you're being toxic, other than, well, I mean, there is no good reason. Like, but like, no matter what reason you choose, you're an asshole. But still, it's more or less. I'm trying to get down to the root of, okay, is this person, like you said, do they have troubles at home? Are they? A lot of times, I feel like these kind of people are bullies to other people in like school or whatever it might be. It's those people where a lot of times these people will message someone and that person won't message back, so it makes that person feel more powerful and like, oh, like I'm tough. But I'm one of those people where I come back at them and it always like takes them back because they're like, oh shit, this guy messaged me back. So a lot of times you literally like, these people get in your face, all you got to do is bark back and they back down. A lot of
Yeah.
so many
Oh yeah.
times. So and literally, there's so many times where I'll say something back to somebody. They're like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting you to respond." It's like, okay, like, so what if I wasn't? If I didn't, you were just gonna accept your little victory and move on with your day and go bully somebody else? Like, no. So it's
Yeah.
like, and there's a lot of times that like when I'm taught, like I call out people like this. It's like, oh, what are you, the morality police? It's like, no, I'm not. Like, maybe in a little way you could say like, sure, I'm trying to like be morality police, but that's not my intention. Is to create a cleaner, more fun environment on Xbox, is to get rid of these toxic assholes and make sure, basically my intent is to, when I run into somebody who's toxic, I want me to be the last person that they're toxic to.
Well,
and,
and here's
and
and here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
and no, just one more point to talk on that is, yeah, it's, I want to be the last person that they're toxic to, so that from now on they look at it differently and be like, okay, this guy did make some good points. I ain't being an asshole. If I have having issues, I need to deal with them a different way, whether it's get therapy or just talk to, just channel it in a different way. Because and like in like some severe, in some cases, and what I'll say to some of these people as well is, what if I'm having the worst day of my life? What if I got fired from a job? What if my wife left me? What if XYZ reasons happened and I just got on Xbox to try to clear my mind, just try to like enjoy a little part of my day, and then I get on and my first game, I'm either warming up because it's my first game, or I'm just frustrated from the day, so I'm not playing well. And you're just being toxic. You tell me to kill myself. What if, like, what if that was my tipping point? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
that.
exactly.
Like you don't know. Like when you're saying these things to these people, you don't know what their day is. You don't know how these words are affecting them. So it's just like I always say that to these people. I'm like, what if I was just having a terrible day and you just pushed me past my tipping point that I was going to harm myself or somebody else?
Exactly. And this is the thing. I want to clarify this for anyone who tunes in and watches this. We're not saying the gaming community needs to sing Kumbaya and hold hands. None of that fucking shit. We're not. We get it. There's competition. There's heated moments in competition. It's expected. It happens in sports. Friendly adversary banter is cool, or even light trolling is fine. But when you're saying something so direct and so full of hatred that just has no merit being part of that that form of communication, especially in games where there are definitely, there are kids that play these games, or there's young adults that don't have everything figured out psychologically yet, especially as mental health is expanding and growing in society, as we're getting a better understanding of it. Maybe just check yourself before you say what you're about to say. Maybe reread it. That's all I ask. If you really want to say something to someone, maybe just reread it, filter it a bit. If you're upset about something they did in a game where you're thinking that like what they just pulled was complete bullshit, like for example, just an example, we're playing Rocket League, me and Collin, and we had 2 back-to-back games where a teammate did not move and then they left. I could have chose to get mad. I could have chose to get mad. He could have chose to get mad. We could have chose to both message this person and be like, oh, what the fuck is wrong with you, blah, blah, blah. But we didn't. We just laughed it off. We're like, you know what? It's whatever. And we were just happy when the next teammate finally stuck around. Barely did anything, but they actually stayed the whole game, which is awesome. And So it's about how you want to look at things. It's you have all the control about handling stuff. And like you were saying, if that person's having a bad day, don't use that as your excuse to lash out at other people. You can definitely use that as a justification to shut someone up. If they're talking to you like that, just be like, look, man, I am having a bad day. Just please back off. And if they don't want to listen to it, yes, report them, block them, do whatever you need to do for yourself. But just remember, don't let anyone virtually drive you to a point that there's no coming back from. Because then they win. And honestly, they're probably just as sad or messed up in the head as you. They just never learned how to deal with it, right? And or maybe they are just by definition some anti-morality asshole. Those people exist in this world. And yes, like I said, there's no kumbaya in this world. There's not going to be peace and love all around the world. There's going to be confrontation. There's going to be hostility to some degree. All we're trying to do is mitigate as much of the hate language, the stuff that crosses that line. And like I know there's those people out there in the community who are like, well, it's just a game. It's like, well, that could be said, well, it's just the internet. Oh, it's just kids in high school. And then that line just slowly starts climbing up until it's like, oh, well, it's just this person driving someone to literally kill themselves. And it's like that's where it's a domino effect. You start at that base understanding where it's like, oh, it's just a game. You're justifying a lot of things that you don't realize you're justifying. It's not just a game. It's a form of communication now, especially with how many people play video games these days. It shouldn't be about hatred. We should be building other players up. If we see someone who sucks and you want to say something to them, be like, wow, they really did this wrong, and use to say, hey man, you could have did this better, and they're like, oh, fuck you, pussy. Be like, all right, well, whatever, I tried to help you, and leave it at that. You wanted to give them friendly advice, give them friendly advice.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do a little shit talk, that's okay too, but do it in a way that's like sports. Don't be like, yeah, you should. I don't know too many athletes who go up to another athlete after, like, and maybe it's happened. I'm sure there's been that kind of hostility among people. I've seen fights break out, but I've never seen someone go up, shake their hand, and be like, you should fucking kill yourself now because you lost. It's like.
Speaking of that, it's funny you mentioned that is from the Packer game on Sunday. The Packers lost or whatever, and basically it came down to overtime, and the Packers had the ball, and Rodgers threw the ball to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and he fumbled it, and then the Colts got it, and then they ended up kicking the field goal to win. Well, I was on Twitter, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling came out and said, he's like, wow, y'all giving me death threats over that? So it's just like, it's crazy how –
yeah.
And it's some other person, I don't remember who they were, but they're verified on Twitter, so obviously they have some influence. And it's like, basically it's like, oh, these people that are giving you death threats, they just have sad lives. They're just they're jealous of the money and the fame and the perks that it comes to being you are as a person. So they like to associate their flaws to equate to yours, and think that it's okay to like say those kind of things and act that way. And then one thing, and you had mentioned it, and it came back in my mind. I lost it before. Is when you're talking to someone, like on Xbox, and you message it to them, and this is actually a part of that conversation I had with that guy that ended up getting banned because I reported him. I was like, what if you said this to my face? What if you said this to somebody's face? It's like, would this be something that you would say to someone's face? It's like, oh, that doesn't matter. That's completely different. It's like, no, it's not. It's like,
yeah,
it's a form of, it's like, so I can't remember what he said to me. This was a couple weeks ago now, but basically it's like what he said to me in a message. It's like, okay, that's not okay. If he said this to me face to face in the street, I'd deck him. So it's
exactly.
Like, it's the same response. Like, obviously, virtually, my only response is to retaliate verbally through a message. But it's like, if you walk up to a person in the street and said whatever it was, I don't know. I think it was something about like you're trash, and like I can't remember. It wasn't just your trash because
something not even worth retaining in your memory, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. But it's
proving
just like,
that they don't win. You can't even remember what they say. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. But the point is if you went up to a stranger on the street and said, "Hey, bro, you're trash," I guarantee that they're not just going to be like, and then walk away.
Yeah.
Maybe if they have a sense of humor and they just don't care and they're having a really good day and there's nothing that can bring them down, maybe. But if it's just an average person on the street, maybe they are having a bad day. Maybe they are someone who gets irritated easily. They're probably gonna yell back at you or punch you in the face.
Yeah.
So it's just like there's all these people that just feel so high and mighty behind a keyboard, but you see them in real person. They're fragile. They're weak. They
Oh, yeah.
crumble. They crumble under pressure. Not obviously not all of them. Some of them are probably big bullies in high school or in life or whatever it might be. But a lot of these people, because they know that their physical attributes are lacking, they have to make up for it virtually with their
Oh
work.
yeah. Well, and then one thing to like just kind of caveat off that, just to say this: if you're a person who gets bullied, and then you are taking that frustration out, or like you're just having a bad day at work, but this is how you get back at attacking random people, you are not in the right. You are just as bad as the people who sit there and make your life a living hell. You are going out of your way to make someone else's life a living hell, and I don't feel a single ounce of remorse for you because you didn't learn from the experiences you endured yourself. You didn't choose to grow from it and realize I should be a better person and rise above what has been happening to me. I should stand my ground to the people who confront me instead of sitting there and trying to pass my bullshit issues onto other people and trying to attack other people. That is not okay, and you need to check yourself right the fuck now. Because you are almost like if I meet a bully, at least I know where they stand. They're a fucking bully. I'll check them every day of the week. They're a bully, and I will talk to them, and I will be like, look, you want to say this to me? That's fine. Obviously, workplace environment's different. There's respect to and there's HR for that. That's a whole different thing, and that's more addressed to the adults and the young adults who are in the work field. We've all seen it. We've all seen assholes at work that we get stuck dealing with. There's different ways to approach that. But if this is just society in itself, if someone's harassing you, you have ways to approach that you can deal with that and confront your issues. Don't pass your shit on to other people. Don't attack other people anonymously because it makes you feel big. It makes you feel better because you're sitting there, whatever is going on in your life. Like, no, it's not, you're worse to me than, at least I know an asshole's an asshole. You're just using your problems to justify attacking other people. So,
Sure.
and just that, and to go off of that, one pro I do want to say is there's a lot of outreach in the gaming community. For all the bad I do see, I know there's a lot of good that does exist. And I would say that I see a lot of these stories surface about friends who've developed straight out of gaming. Like that's literally friendships have developed out of people who don't even live in the same state, just gaming with each other. And that is awesome to me. And I think that's so cool. And I think that's where we need to get back to. I'd say in terms of these keyboard warriors, these people who think that they can sit there and convey and communicate this horrible way to people, I think we need to start calling them out as a majority. The whole community just needs to start checking these people. And we talked about, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, they all do their part as much as they can. They check them, they ban them, they report them, and that goes along the way with my next con with gaming. There are people who will exploit and cheat the system. And this is probably the only con I have that I can't find a pro for. And this isn't just a gaming concept, this is a life concept. There will always be people who will cheat and do whatever it takes in the most unethical ways to get ahead, to gain an advantage, because they don't want to put the work in. And yes, on a scientific level, cheating is kind of seen as like a revolutionary thing, but it's on an ethical level, it is it's obviously not okay. It's not acceptable. Do the work. Learn, grow, develop yourself. What's the point of taking the fun out of a game for yourself? Now, I'm not talking about the people who go on their PlayStation 2 and up, left, down, right, and then all of a sudden they're a flying tank with Superman strength. I'm not talking about that nonsense. That's fun. And I'm not talking if it's a single player game, you're not hurting anybody. I'm talking about when you're trying to bring in things into multiplayer games where you directly impact the flow of every other person's gameplay experience in that game because you chose to cheat. You are a con and you need to go. You have never really been accepted by the gaming community. If anyone else thinks you're okay to be part of the gaming community, they're part of the problem.
Yeah. No, yeah, I kind of forgot about that one as a con because I kind of made a list of the two, and that's one I always forget about it often when thinking about gaming is just like the cheating side of things and how, like you said, it's a life concept. It's like obviously this topic, the general idea is based around video games, but these people who find a way to cheat in a video game to give themselves an advantage to, and some of these cheats, the worst part is that some of them don't even give them an advantage, they only hurt other people. So like that's even worse. so
Yeah.
like so like not only are you implementing a cheat that doesn't give you an advantage, it's only hurting other players. So it's like there's no justifying that, like
No,
at all.
none.
Like like at least giving yourself an advantage, it's slightly justifiable to the point of, oh, I want to win. Like that's literally the only justifiable thing is I don't like to lose, I want to win. So it's like, but if it gets to the point where I'm thinking, oh, of like in Warzone, how there was a glitch where if you went to a certain part of the map, it would crash the game and everybody would get kicked out, and you just the whole lobby would crash. It's like that doesn't benefit you, and it sure as hell is hurting the other 150 people in the lobby. But yet, you saw somebody on TikTok, which first of all, fuck TikTok. That fucking
Yeah.
platform pisses me off. Um, you saw some guy on TikTok take a ATV to a certain spot in the map, and it crashes the game. So you went on YouTube and searched it, and it confirmed it. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna try it now and see if it works. No, you know it works.
Yeah, you
You
saw a
know,
video of it
yeah,
working.
yeah, you saw multiple videos of other people doing it. It's not, oh, I want to test it for myself. It's no, you know it works. At that point, if you're going and doing it, you're accepting the fact that you're an asshole and you just took X amount of time. Like, say you do it 10 minutes into a match, there's 150 people in a game. You just wasted 1,500 minutes of other people's time. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's just like, and like that's a part of the way I look at it too, is you're wasting other people's time by implementing these cheats and forcing other people's gameplay to be hindered.
And then just to go off of that too, just anyone who's out there is like, well, it's not our fault, it's the game's fault. They're the ones who designed a crap game. If you don't like the way they design their games, first off, stop fucking playing it. It's okay to bitch to a degree, but if you're gonna sit there and use those exploits and then bitch about the game at the same time and blame the game, get the fuck off of it. I don't want to play with you. No one wants to play with you because if you're gonna bitch about it and then sit there and make the game worse, because if you know about it, leave it alone. If it happens to you, it happens to you. Some other asshole did it, whatever. But leave it alone. Now, if there's other things like, what gun was that had the shotgun attachment on it that was just
Oh,
overpowered
the
for a bit?
FAMAS.
Yeah, the FAMAS. That was funny, and that was an advantage. It was kind of more of, I think almost everyone wanted to test that at one point because honestly, it was hard to believe. I never saw a video of it. And it wasn't one of those things that made you untouchable. It didn't make you unkillable. It just was literally like, wow, you literally have a one-shot death gun now at like 20 feet. And and that's the thing. If you ran that, you run these metas, whatever, you hear about that. I don't have a lot of hate for you. I have frustration, but I don't have hate for you. It's frustration because it's obviously I'm gonna be mad because it's like shit. That's one of them guys. One of those dudes with their snake shot or the fuck it was called, and the back in when that first came out. Like it
AS Val that you put on that barrel that you can shoot people through like four walls.
exactly, and it's like yeah, there are situations like that. We've covered exploitations, but do I think you're as bad as these people? No. I think you are every right to keep playing the game. Whatever you exploit, I don't want you out of the community. Maybe I'd like to see you come back into the just enjoy the game. Don't look for the quickest exploit. And I'm glad you brought up things like TikTok and stuff like that. This is a pro con situation. Gaming influencers. I'd say there's pros and cons. They bring video game awareness. So a lot of them have a lot of good things to say. But a con is, who is that one gamer who is trying to, he fucked himself. He got himself, his whole account stripped from him in Fortnite, I think it was, right?
Oh, FaZe Jarvis.
Yeah, FaZe Jarvis. He was trying to show a cheat. to the community. He was showing how it's like, I don't know what he was thinking. And obviously, this isn't me shit talking. He obviously had a massive like following. Like he did good for himself up to a point. But sometimes you got to just stop, especially when you have this much of a following and a fan base. Think about what you're doing. Think about the things you're going through. It there's gamers, there's these influencers, not even just gaming influencers, but influencers in general. These people who are famous on YouTube who are still getting dragged through the dirt for their old content just because they didn't think about what they were releasing. And it's like, just take a second and really screen and vet what you're doing. Maybe show it to multiple people before you release that content and be like, is this offensive or is this stupid? And then if there's like if you got a good amount of people who are like, that's all right. Like it's questionable, but it's all right. It's like, okay, then yeah, go for it. But if it's like, I don't know, dude, this might destroy your career. Maybe listen to that. Don't get a big head about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I love a lot of the things these people do for gaming. I love the awareness they bring. I love that we're crushing that taboo that started when gaming started gaining momentum, and then all those school shootings unfortunately happened, like from like the 90s into the early 2000s, and like how there's like this whole violence trend started around the concept, oh, games make people violent. It's like, no, they don't. Games do not make people violent. Violent people play violent games because they have an association to violence that they enjoy. Doesn't mean that game made them violent. It just and there's been situations in games, you can look it up, where things people learn from games have helped literally save lives.
Yeah.
Very rare situations, but there have been situations. I think there's a story about a little boy. I can't remember what game it was from. It was an RPG, I think. Saved his sister from a wild animal or something. And I have to look up the exact story, but like it's something he remembered from the game. So,
yeah. It was. Yeah, I was actually just reading this story. It was I think it was from Colorado, maybe not, but yeah, basically it was a little boy who saved his like infant sister it was from a dog. Like a dog, the dog was like attacking or was like super aggravated towards this infant. So the little boy literally just like went to town like holding his dog until I don't know somebody came to help. But yeah, he had to get like multiple stitches in his face and like all this and that, and it's just like, yeah, and it's all stuff that he apparently had saw in a game or WWE too, because he got like shout outs from like wrestlers and stuff, and he got like free tickets to stuff because I don't know if he was a big WWE fan or if he saw like, oh yeah, I just did a John Cena to the dog. That's how.
Just see him spinning the dog on his shoulders,
Yeah.
like and then slamming. But no, and that's the thing. There's a lot that can be learned from games, and it's about the perspective you go into gaming with. Now, if you're one of those people who just picks up Call of Duty, you're like, yeah, I want to fucking kill people and shoot them in the face. Maybe don't be so violent about it. Don't think about it so violent. You're having fun. You get to experience maybe a part of reality you would never get to go into this world. Obviously, you don't want to kill people. No one should want to kill people. Let's clarify that now. If you're someone who's sitting out there thinking murder is okay, you need to really, really get some help. Now, there's a difference between justified violence and murder and killing. And if you're one of those people who just indulges in this idea of death and wishing to harm other people, sincerely, go get yourself some help. Check yourself. Reach out. Don't be afraid. Go communicate to someone. Maybe don't be like, yeah, I want to mass murder people, but just say I'm having these thoughts that are probably not healthy. And get some help. But overall, the psychological impact of gaming, I'd say, is a lot more minimal than what they try to explain it as. And I think you have to have some kind of psychological thing there before a game truly drives you to a point. I mean, you can even look at people throughout history. The guy who shot, what was his name, John Lennon, because he read The Catcher in the Rye, and he blamed that book. Like, no, there's clearly a lot more that was going on there. And that book got blacklisted because of that. It's like, no, content does not, unless this content is literally subliminally messaging you to kill people and brainwashing you, no, it's not telling you to go out and do these things. Then you sound like serial killers like the son of Sam who thought his dog was a demon and telling him to kill people. You clearly have something That's not right.
Hmm.
And you need to think about and if you guys see someone like this in your life, maybe a friend who's kind of like questionable, reach out, help your friend. If you care about them, help them now before those things escalate. And getting back into that point of just like you influencers out there, you have so much power. If any of you, for whatever reason, stumble upon us, our little humble accounts on YouTube, Instagram, whatever, if you just, for whatever reason, tune in, you're like, no, gaming podcasts, who are these guys? And you hear this, just really think about that. Linger on what we're saying. Yes, I know I don't have millions of followers like some of you guys, obviously, but think about the power you have. And think about how your voice carries so much strength behind it. You influence people. Literally, it's in the term influencer. You can make people do so much good in the world just by the things you ask of them and how you challenge them to be better, to be
Hmm.
better people.
What I love about these influencers too is when they try to give back to the smaller content creators of the gaming world, or not even the gaming world, just
In
content creators
general,
in
yeah.
general. Of they, there was one time, um, shit, what's his name? Oh, Venomic. He's actually from Wisconsin too. He's a streamer on Facebook. Um, and I've chatted with him a few times. He's awesome dude. And I was basically the way streaming, when you shut down your stream, you can send your viewers to another stream. So and it's called like a raid. You can raid somebody. So I'm in the middle. I can't remember what I was playing. If I was playing Call of Duty, if I was playing Fortnite at the time, whatever it was. But all of a sudden, I went from like 4 or 5 viewers on my stream to like 60, and I'm like, whoa! And all of a sudden, the chat's going crazy. It's like, oh, Venomic raid. I'm like, oh, Venomic, man, thanks. It's just like that's the shit I love with
Yeah.
these influencers and how they look to use the platform that they have built, all the hard work they have put in, and pay it forward to someone that they see grinding, putting in the time, putting in the effort, building a positive community. Like it's not a matter of charity and feeling bad for this guy. Be like, oh, this guy doesn't have anybody watching him. Like, and more or less making a joke out of it to be like, oh, I bet this guy's never had a viewer in his life. Let's throw my viewers at him and like mock him or whatever. It's never about that. That's never a vibe I've got from it. It's because in turn, if that influencer is doing that, they themselves are building a negative community. They're saying it's okay to mock and harass these people. So anytime that I have received a raid, I've got like a handful of raids streaming in my life. A few from creators I knew, a few from some I didn't, and I almost appreciate it more from the ones that I didn't know because obviously they've seen me, they've known my content, and but we haven't communicated at a personal level, but yet they felt inclined to send me their viewers because they saw something good in me, whatever it might be. So that's just always something that's nice with these influencers as well.
Oh yeah, it's like community outreach. It's that, and that's what I love to hear. And those stories always make me so happy because it's like that's what we're supposed to do in society. We want to see the world move in a better direction. It starts with the little things. It starts with the small actions in our daily lives. And I know this is kind of more of a life thing than just a gaming thing, but I will turn it into gaming. Every action you take has some repercussion. That's a firm belief in my reality and my life. You can choose to believe differently. You can choose to believe that, oh, I can get away with whatever I want to say or do, and that's fine. You can believe however you want to believe, but I will believe that everything I do has some kind of repercussion to it. So yes, I want to live my life, and I don't live my life because if I feel like if I do bad things will happen to me. I choose to do good things. I choose to want to support other people because it just feels right to me. It feels right, and I like feeling right inside. I don't want to feel that internal chaos that these haters feel, that like whatever drove them to be so bitter. You got to forget about it. You got to move past it, and you got to just start trying to be the positive impact in life you want to see around you. If you're not seeing it, be it. If you can't see it at all, start something. Start a movement. Be that voice. Be a voice of positive change like these awesome influencers out there are doing. do what they're doing, even at the smallest level. If you can reach out to one person and change their day, you have made more change in this world than you were doing before. So, and
Um, there's one point I kind of want to bring up. It's from the older topic of talking about like how there's the stigma of video games create these mass shooters and stuff. I almost think the exact opposite because of the fact that these people who have violent tendencies, if you look at their background and they've played video games, be thankful for that. Maybe that was their
yeah,
release. Maybe that was the way that they took that frustration, those thoughts of hatred, and rather than forcing them on an innocent individual or group of individuals in a school or a mass setting, and instead they just went into MW2 and played No Russian over and over.
yeah,
Like,
right.
be thankful for that.
Yeah,
Like small victories. Like, yeah, yes, it's still concerning if you go into your kid's room and they just every time you go into the room and they're playing video games and they're playing No Russian over and over and over and over. Okay, maybe have a talk with them, but at the same time, small victories. Be thankful that they're
there's an outlet.
there's an outlet for them in these games um, that they can use to get rid of those bad thoughts.
So, and that actually makes me come back to a thought too. And this is just, and this is such a strong statement coming from me. And it's like, and this is to challenge that idea. It's just a game. Games have saved my life in a lot of ways. Games have gone a long way for me. In some of my darkest times, there's been nothing else for me to do, no one to reach out to. I didn't know how to convey things to people. I didn't know how to feel. So I'd just lose myself in a video game. I would distract myself with a video game. I would insert myself into this fantasy world. And that's why I talk about, like, I love these suspension of reality games where it's like, oh, I can go fly on a dragon or do something fantastic that I can't do in my reality because it separates me from my problems just for a bit, just enough to clear my thoughts, to give me enough time to have enough breathing room to be like, all right, now I can figure this out and start working on it step by step. So I think there needs to be a lot more positive direction in gaming. Like, for example, there's literally, and I've told you about this, I mentioned it, there's a game on Xbox right now. It's in the Game Pass, I believe. It literally is to draw awareness to mental health. And the levels are weird and surrealistic, and it's interesting, and it's kind of a cool concept. It's sad. It's a very sad thing, like, playing through because it's supposed to cause a sensation in you. It's supposed to create, like, this is what someone with anxiety feels like. This is what someone with depression feels like. This is what someone with paranoia feels like. These different levels tackle different sort of mental anguishes that people endure. And like it actually has a very like awesome ending that gives me chills. It's just super cool. And it's like, and I recommend it to anybody. I'll find the title, and it's just such a small indie game, and it's so cool the awareness it brings. And I love to see the awareness the gaming developers want to show people, and not even just in mental health aspects, but overall aspects of life. Obviously, there's these gaming developers and these industries want to challenge you into some ideals to be like, is this wrong or right? They establish that. Like, obviously, they don't let you shoot a baby in Call of Duty, the newest one. Like, they don't let you do that. They don't let you kill the kid and the mother because they are challenging you to realize, yes, you are this hard operator, but even you wouldn't kill these people because you have no right to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And if it even can create such a thin line of understanding that is leaps and bounds ahead of, say, just, and there are games out there, don't get me wrong, there are games where you can do some very fucked up things, Postal being one of them, and I don't recommend, like, Postal 2 is a hilarious game, but it has a lot of very questionable things in it. But that's just, there's a lot of games out there that were created with, I wouldn't say necessarily evil intent, but they definitely are morally questionable. And there's lists of them. You can look them up out there, and I recommend not playing them just because they're shitty games. They're not just shitty created, but they're just shitty overall, the message they're trying to send. And so just going off of that, one pro is if you're a person who doesn't like to sit down, you don't have the patience to read a book, but you like to have some kind of way to expand and learn or even enjoy a fantasy world or separate yourself from stuff. Games are a great way to do it because it can maintain your attention span. It keeps you active. It keeps you aware and alert. So I'd say I'd give that as a pro. A con that goes with this one is that don't allow games to absorb your life. Don't sit there and realize reality is base reality. That's where your intentions, your focus needs to be, is your actual life. Don't neglect your hygiene. Don't neglect your self-care for the sake of gaming. I know gaming can be addictive, and that's another con, essentially. But like everything, there needs to be moderation. So just be wary and realize that maybe if a game is starting to consume your life, obviously on game day release, you might sit there and close the blinds, and you might just be like, all right, this game just came out. I've been waiting months for it. That's fine. We've all had that moment where like, yep, we're about to grind this game for like 3 days straight. But once that feeling wears off, once you're kind of past that like game day release initial, like, wow, draw it back a bit. Take some time. Go for a hike. I don't know. Go out in the world. Obviously, with COVID right now, go out
in your backyard.
Yeah, go out practicing social distancing, and obviously go through the proper things you need to go through when dealing with this virus situation that we're dealing with right now. But don't allow these games to overall consume every other aspect of your life. Don't lose your other passions, your hobbies, don't destroy your relationships with people because you spend too much time locked into video games.
For sure. And kind of going off of that, and this is kind of another pro, and it's actually a suggestion. So I want to give a shout out to Wolfstead10 on Instagram. He gave us kind of an idea to talk about, and this was a good episode to bring that in, and that's the fact that video games are the foundation for critical thinkers. So as far as like your problem solving, just the decisions you have to make in some of these games, they're very tough decisions that might help you down the road to make better financial decisions, moral decisions, personal decisions, with relationships. Maybe you play a video game and you see some dude who's got a piece of shit spouse, and like whatever, they make the decision to leave them, and then that character in the game, it turns out to have a better life, and you yourself have a not so good relationship. Like it can allow you to basically live out this life that you've lived in this video game and apply it to your life in a lot of really positive ways. So again, just with like the critical thinking, and I have problem solving as a different point, but they kind of mesh together, is that again, just taking these decisions that you make in video games, and again, making yourself a stronger, more willed person, because instead of, and obviously making mistakes in real life, it's a good thing, because if you address them correctly, you can learn from these mistakes. But at the same time, if you could minimize those mistakes in real life and just play them out in an alternate reality and realize, oh shit, I should have did it this way, like that can be beneficial as well.
Exactly. And I do want to expand on that because I do love that concept. So I think that person for reaching out, for wanting to have us bring up that idea. And yeah, I love the idea of foundation of critical thinkers, because games, like you already expressed, do challenge you. And not all do. Some are very simple. But even that helps people resolve their thinking. Maybe they have a lot of stress and they want a place they can go where they don't have to think so hard. They don't have to, like, say there's someone who sits there and literally manages life or death situations almost daily. Obviously, that's a lot of stress on your plate. If you would like to go somewhere where you literally like don't have to make decisions like that, that's a place for you to go. That's a way you can separate yourself for an hour or two from reality and take yourself out of what you're dealing with. And in terms of like critical thinking and ethical decisions and overall morality and questioning it, and that's one thing I do like, because I've expressed I do like playing the bad guy in video games, because I have defined for myself morality in life. I know that I've made mistakes. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I have a good understanding of what's right, to my understanding of what's right and to what's wrong. And so getting to see how that plays out for you in a game, because one thing I do like for the most part, if you play the bad guy in games, things don't usually end up too well for the way you play it out. You create, and it actually teaches you. There's learning lessons from it. Say, for example, you choose to wrong somebody I think this even happens in Skyrim at points where people will put bounties on you because of other people you've wronged. And it's like it teaches you that karma can exist to some concept, like to some understanding that you can create bigger monsters for yourself by choosing to be the monster. And obviously, if you're like a level 80 something in Skyrim, you don't really care. You just fuck that bounty hunter up anyways. But the deeper underlying message is there that you can create more problems for yourself by being a problem. And if you choose to play proactively and be that good ethical aspect in a game, 9 times out of 10, it seems to be a lot better playthrough. And I do want to touch on I love when games do bring very human concepts to them. One is I'll keep pushing you to play it, Red Dead 2, because in terms of like seeing that villainous arc to sort of the tragic hero concept, I'd say that game does it very well, and that's the closest I'll get to saying anything spoiler related. But you definitely get to see a lot of human evolution in terms of personal perspective and how someone looks at life and faces reality. And it's cool because the setting is obviously one of the most dangerous settings established, where people were dying because of just left and right because of diseases and so much other shit and just getting shot. And it was wild. It was the Wild West. So getting to see this more internalized perspective of your video game character and understand those concepts do help you develop yourself and your ability to think. Even puzzle games are great for expanding your cognitive ability because it gets you thinking. Pardon. For example, like there's games where it's like you could come to a spot where you are just stuck, and you have 2 options at this point nowadays. Back when the internet wasn't so expanded, it wasn't as easy, but now you got 2 options for yourself. One, you can sit there and figure it out for yourself and keep pushing until you figure it out. Or 2, you can look it up right away. Me, I try to kind of find a middle ground for that because I obviously admit when there's points where I can't solve things. And that's actually a good life lesson too. Sometimes some things are just out of your reach or your understanding that you just can't figure it out. And it's okay to reach out to the community or look into the community and see what answers are out there.
Mm-hmm.
But at least try first. That's what I encourage in gaming too. And so that could be kind of a con that comes out of it too with critical thinking is some people choose to neglect the critical thinking, and I think that's more of the internet because they have all that knowledge. They have that community to lean on. Don't cripple yourself. Don't use that as too big a crutch. But if you obviously are stuck for a week at a point where you don't know what the hell to do, then it's okay to reach out. So there's like that ambiguous gray area there between the pros and the cons. But in terms of that whole critical thinking concept, yeah, 100% awesome. And one point I do want to talk on is one pro is like you actually get to learn. I'd say there's a lot of things you get to learn. There's simulators. There's games like you get to learn about people's jobs that they do. Even there's stuff along the lines of like I can't remember the exact Mud Runner or whatever. And then there's like there's logging games and stuff like that. There's straight up actual simulators of people's jobs, and you get a loose understanding of the work they do. And it can be fun, and it's a fun way to learn about stuff. And it's interactive, so it keeps you engaged, and yet you're learning.
Mm-hmm. And even like what I could think of too is like a flight simulator, like how people like for learning to fly planes, or otherwise I've seen actually streamers that do it as far as a like a trucker, like where they have like a steering wheel and like foot pedals and shit, and they'll drive from point A to point B. So it's just like, yeah, it's cool. As far as the educational side that these games can have, again, whether it's kind of diving into the realm of an occupation that maybe you want to learn about just for fun, or maybe down the road you're like, oh yeah, I could see myself doing this in real life. So you use this video game to kind of give you a jump start on it. Otherwise, again, it's those puzzle games. And actually, one that I played not too long ago was Portal. I don't know if you ever played Portal.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, those games are kind of a puzzle game, and they're some of them can be difficult and kind of fun. Um, Even like tower defense games, like those are kind of fun. Where it's just like you have like a enemy. And the one I could think of that I always played was Stalingrad, and on the computer, and it was like a tower defense game where you have these like tanks and vehicles come through the screen, and you just have to set up like turrets and like
Yeah.
anti-air stuff and like not let them through. So these are all ones that, yes, there's still a game. Yes, you get that enjoyment out of it, but you can get, like you said, that learning side of it, educational side to it as well.
Yeah, and then just to expand on that too, even games like Battlefield or Call of Duty. Say you're a history buff, and yeah, obviously they expand, they romanticize it a bit, but there's a base reality there that if you want to learn more, and like there might be concepts you don't even understand that you may enjoy. Like you could play like these games and be like, wow, I actually want to know the real story. I want to look it up. And now you got, all of a sudden you're learning about history. You're learning about concepts that you otherwise would have not thought about because you just decided to pick up a game because you thought it'd be cool to run around as this badass soldier.
Mm-hmm. And kind of what, I guess one more, and we can wrap it up, or we don't have to. But one more point that I wanted to bring up, and again, this is the pro side of it, and I'll kind of talk about the con side of it as well, as hand-eye coordination. So playing video games, it like obviously with your hands, it improves that cognitive function between your hands and your brain, because you're constantly making quick decisions, whether it's a first-person shooter, even sports games. You have to make quick decisions on whether it's passing it to someone, throwing it, juking, whatever it might be. So the nice thing about video games is improving that hand-eye coordination and just testing that part of your brain that a lot of other things in life don't, I guess, test. Obviously, some of them do. But also the con being, so like in hand-eye coordination, that's a very important thing in sports. So what I'm saying is, to the con side of it, I wouldn't expect a video game player to go out on the field and out throw Aaron Rodgers because no, I have good hand-eye coordination. I can do this. It's like the downfall of the hand-eye coordination is, again, that you're sitting in one spot. You're not testing your physical abilities as a whole. You're not running. You're not lifting things. So I guess it's just that downfall with, yes, you do have improved hand-eye coordination, but you got Cheeto dust forming on your belly.
Yeah, exactly. There's a trade-off. And one thing I do want to touch on, and I think it's really cool, and we've talked about it several times now, VR. I think VR helps kind of bridge that gap a bit. If you are willing to be proactive with the game, you're willing to actually move and function and use your hands and be standing and walking as you're supposed to, and kind of just like learning, like at least you're standing now, you're moving your arms, you are actually having to be involved. Your arms need to be up, around, to the sides. Like you're doing a lot more functional movement than you otherwise are doing 90% of the time when you're gaming. Usually you're, like you said, planted on your ass, Cheeto dust collected in your belly button. But yeah, and so that's a little side pro shout out for that. That's expanding on that idea of like how can we slowly integrate more physical movement into gaming. And overall, I think this is a good place to wrap up. I feel like we've covered our bases pretty well. So
I agree. I mean, I was expecting to talk about this for like maybe a half hour, but we're over an hour right now.
Yeah.
Which is always good. I'm always glad that these topics that we expect to just be like, oh, a little side topic, let's talk about it for a little bit, and it turns into a long episode, because obviously there's more pros and cons we haven't talked about that I'm sure we could think of. So this could be a topic that we explore couple weeks, couple months down the road again. But
Oh yeah, and that's just one thing too. It's like I'm sure a lot of people who do tune in and watch us, they realize we don't just talk about what we say we're going to talk about. We kind of like expand on old stuff that we've talked about and talk about new things that will be coming in the future because it doesn't have to be a fixed thing. This is a conversation, and I'll clarify that we don't speak in facts. We may mention one or two facts that we hear about, but we're not sitting there and telling you this is how it is. We're telling you from our experiences, this is what we like and what would help, in our opinion, make the gaming community better as a whole or is fascinating about the gaming community. And we're just trying to be like those influencers we talk about. We're trying to spread awareness in a positive light. We just get to swear while we do it because we don't try to appeal to everybody.
Exactly. And actually, we'll be bringing out more content after this episode. So I don't remember what we're doing, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's all, dude. We honestly just spitball half the time. We don't even know most of the time. We're just going with it.
Yeah.
For the people who watch, we don't know what we do.
Yeah. That's the best part. I mean, when I jumped on, you're like, "Oh, what are we talking about again?" I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna do pros and cons." Hey, we talked for a fucking hour.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, and I got to be a little honest myself. I created my pros and cons list as I was sending you the invite.
I kind of figured. And that's just what it is. And I want people to realize they can be content creators too. Just be outspoken. And obviously, we're not talking on the volume like, we're not like Ninja or anything like that. But what we do is if we can reach even one person, we're happy to do that. And I clarified this before in our videos that I just want to send a positive message overall out, but in a very humanized way. We're all adults. We all swear. We all have stress. We all make mistakes. But I want to see everyone grow from it, learn from it, better yourself as a gamer, better yourself as a person.
Amen, brother.
Yes, brother. And with that, signing off.
All right, I'll see you, man.
That sounds good.